was a place that was very important to me when I lived here while I was growing up. I spent most of my youth in Davison, so I would go to the Davison Public Library as a child, and I was fortunate that my parents took me there every week, and I would try to check out as many books as I could. I think they had a limit of 10. And I'd always try to sneak an 11th book into the pile, because I was thinking even at that age that librarians were probably pretty smart when it came to, you know, reading and English and things like that, but maybe they weren't that great at math. And maybe they couldn't count to 11. So I would try to always sneak that book in, and most of them would let me get away with it. But I really enjoyed the library. I enjoyed reading. And I dedicated this book to my mother, who taught me to read and to write by the time I went to kindergarten. And that was a great gift that she gave me, and it served me well as a young person, although it also made school very boring, because I was already reading, and well, you know, we were supposed to be singing the ABCs, and so I'm sitting there just kind of mouthing and going along with it. Which the nuns at St. John's in Davison saw that this was only going to cause trouble for them, so they skipped me up a grade one day to 2nd grade, and I tell the story in this book here about I came home and announced to my parents that I was suddenly in 2nd grade. That scene from The Matrix where everything went into slow motion? No! We're gonna lose Indiana! North Carolina! Why would he do that? Somebody asked him why he did it. He said, because that's my name. That's my name. Hussein, it's Arabic for kindness. That's my name. You have the guts and the courage to just put Hussein on the ballot and trust that his fellow Americans weren't that bigoted that they would actually just vote for the man and not the middle name. I want that Obama back. I want that courage, that audacity. I want that brave Obama back. What happened? What happened? Is it just me? No. You don't have to sleep in a tent in downtown Flint, although you're welcome to, but you don't have to do that. You could do something as simple as taking your checking account out of Chase or Bank of America and putting it in a credit union. You can do something as simple as in the next year, go to a candidates forum and say to the candidates, I'm not voting for you if you take one dime of money from Wall Street or the banks. You take money from them, I'm not voting for you. If they hear that enough, they'll get the message. You know, we know our electoral system is bought and paid for by the richest people in this country. The top 400 wealthiest people in this nation have more combined wealth than 150 million Americans. 150 million Americans combined don't have as much as 400. Unbelievable, isn't it? And we call this a democracy. And essentially the 400 run the show. I'm a deputy mayor for $1 a year, and I would organize class action suits against the major banks who created this problem that in the end hurts cities like Flint, Michigan. The mortgage thing, the fraud that they created, they need to be sued, and they need to take their money and fix some roads. Number 3. Number 3. With all the abandoned homes and all the people who have just left these properties behind, and thank God for what Dan Kildee has done. Actually, this was point number 9. Point number 9 says, you know, because Dan, he started the land bank, then he started all this development. I don't know if you've been, you know, downtown lately, but the Durant Hotel, oh my God, the Barrage Hotel is, they can't get a room there.
We founded Davison. And they settled on Lake Nipissing, and then moved over into the county line there in Genesee, Lapeer County, and they created this village called Elba. And so I thought I would just read you a little bit of the story. These stories were passed down through our family. Our family has a history of marrying late and having kids late. So, for instance, my grandfather, on my mom's side, was born 3 years after the Civil War. That's just my grandfather. So, these stories haven't gone through 14 generations. This is from my grandfather to my mother to me. I went back to my room, I forgot about the bag of Ruffles. I got out my pad of paper and my trusty big pen and all the fury I could muster. How dare the Elks Club besmirch the fine name of Abraham Lincoln by sponsoring this contest? Had they no shame? I thought I'd lead off with some subtlety. How is it that an organization that will not allow black people into their club be part of Boys State, spreading their bigotry under the guise of doing something good? What kind of example is being set for us boys? Who even allowed them in here? If Boys State is to endorse any form of segregation, then by all means let it be the segregation that separates these racists from the rest of us who believe in the American way. I showed up the next morning to give the speech in the designated room. Only 12 other boys had written a speech, and they gave the typical Abe Lincoln speech about the Civil War and Honest Abe. Then it was time for me. Few were prepared for the insults I was about to hurl at the Elks Club. But as I looked around, there was no one from the Elks Club in the room. In fact, the Elks Club had hired a public school teacher from Lansing to be the judge of the contest. As I got halfway through the speech, I looked up, and most of the boys in the room had their jaws agape and were appalled. The one black kid in the room was covering his mouth, trying not to laugh. At the end of it all, the teacher stood up and said, "Thank you, all of you, for your well-written speeches." And the winner of this year's Elks Club Boys State speech contest is Michael Moore. But, dear reader, before you start playing the Star-Spangled Banner, I need to remind you what you already know. This idyllic existence, so aptly documented on shows like Donna Reed and Father Knows Best, had its dark side. Beyond the fact that women were still years away from a liberation movement, and beyond the fact that had a single black person moved into this neighborhood, the for sale signs would have grown like poisonous weeds. There was the insurmountable fact that you simply could not love who you loved if who you loved possessed the same genitalia as you. I then go on to tell the story of Sammy in the neighborhood, the gay kid in the neighborhood. Everybody had one, right? Or two. And he was beaten and bullied constantly. He was also responsible for the first time I heard anything from this music called Motown. Sammy would come home from school. He was about 4 years older than the kids my age. And he held a dance party out on his back porch. He had a little tiny record player, and he put on Motown 45s. And it was the first time any of us had heard this black music.